It's so great to be here today with Valerie Flynn, who has one of the authors of the Writers of Meaning. Is that
Yes. Yep.
you want to
It's
hold the book up, Valerie?
yeah,
Writers
it's
of Meaning.
Writers of Meaning, an anthology on community.
This is super exciting, and so Valerie is going to tell us all about how this book came to be and what part she has played in it. But before we get started, Valerie, I wonder if you could introduce yourself a little bit to the people who may not know you.
Sure. My name is Valerie Flynn. I am an author and a podcaster. I used to work in media production for 30 plus years with my dad and my brother. I am a self-learner. I enjoy following rabbit trails wherever they lead me. My curiosity is like, "Ooh, what's this shiny thing?" And then I go ferret off and find out more information about that. Um, but I have a lot of eclectic interests, and I really appreciate being on the program.
Well, cool. So one of the things I was maybe you can give this a shot. Sometimes people come on my podcast, my YouTube channel, and mention TLC, and they say, this is what's happening in TLC right now. And there
Mhm.
are other people who watch my show who have nothing to do with TLC. They're more interested in the science end of things. So
Mhm.
maybe you could define for people who are unfamiliar with it, you could define for them what TLC is.
TLC is Sevilla King actually coined the term uh, this little corner, meaning this little corner of the internet. And I really love that term. A lot of people, there's other people in the a little arena of um, of internet space. It encompasses. I think it kind of started with the Bridges and Meaning Discord server, which was started by Joey, who was a member of Paul Van der Clay's Estuary, to try to facilitate in real life uh, community and relationships and deeper, meaningful conversations. So the online space was created to help have real life community. And it is grown to kind of encompass uh, people who are aware of four different people. Originally, Jordan Peterson, um, and Jonathan Peugeot, who is icon carver and artist, and he has the podcast called The Symbolic World, which is taking old church fathers' understanding ancient writings and applying them to the symbolic world, which is more of an intuitive thing. And he explains it for a lot of us left brain people like, oh, that's what it's talking about. So it's very fascinating. So there's Jordan Peterson, who many of you people may have heard from, who's kind of a controversial figure, but a lot of us like him not because he's controversial, but because he has a lot of depth to him, talking about psychology and maps of meaning and understanding the underpinnings and he did a biblical lecture series on the psychology of the Bible stories, which was fascinating. Um, so he's kind of an eclectic eccentric character, but very smart and articulate and a bit outspoken. So he's the controversial one.
And he's
Um,
also quite soft-hearted.
Very
In,
soft-hearted.
in
He
spite of
loves
in
people.
spite of being a tough dad, when he needs to
Yeah,
be tough, he's also very soft-hearted.
he is, and I have a lot of respect for him. I don't agree with him on everything,
Yeah.
but he is so articulate and so well read and learned. It's just beautiful. Um, and then there's a couple other people who are not as well known. Um, John Vervaeke is becoming more well known, who is a cognitive science professor at Jordan Peterson's former college of University of Toronto, and he talks about the awakening from the meaning crisis. He did a lecture series on YouTube called "Awakening from the Meaning Crisis," which is a 50 episode, 1 hour long episode each, um, college class talking about the meaning crisis and how it ties into history, cognitive science, AI, all this stuff. And I was like, it was amazing. It blew my mind. I remember like, 20% of it, but it's really great. Um, And
It's
then he
also
did
kind
a,
of a master's class in philosophy because he goes all the way
yeah,
back to the early philosophers and then works
yeah,
his way all up to the present day.
yeah. And so he's very learned. He's more academic. He's like a true academic, but he's a very centered academic. He doesn't go into the whole cultural war thing. He pulls back from the political. He can talk about political, but he talks about the faults of both sides. Um, and I think he's more liberal himself, but I think he would probably classify himself as more classical liberal. But he never said that I've heard. But um, he doesn't agree on the same issues as Paul John um, John
Jordan.
Jordan Peterson. But they interacted before he took Jordan took his skyrocket into fame. And so they were actually very renowned teachers at that college, and they actually had talks and stuff before them, and they still do, and they're still friends. They disagree on things, but they have a deep respect for each other. Um, and the other one that you and I are connected to is Pastor Paul Vanderclay. He's a pastor in Sacramento, California, on a little dying church, and who did some commentaries on Jordan Peterson back in 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in there. And the YouTube algorithm fed him to a lot of people who were interested in Peterson because he was a Christian pastor talking about um, giving commentary on the biblical commentary on Jordan Peterson's talk, especially the biblical lecture series. And so that was interesting to him because he was like, this guy's pulling in all these people when with the church pews that are empty. And so what is this guy doing? And so Pastor Paul Vaniclay, he is not looking to go up the social and YouTube hierarchy. He's just doing his little thing and doing commentaries and monologues and conversations with random people like yourself. Um, and a lot of us were very attracted to him, not in a romantic way, he's married. It's just he has a great intellect. He's very well grounded, centered person um, and talks about deeper things. And he's very open and community oriented. So he's trying to get people not to like, put him on a pedestal. He wants people to be in community with each other because there's only one of him. And that's from him being a pastor of facilitating his church members being in community with each other. So he's doing the same thing with us online, and he created a thing with John Van Donk called Estuary. It grew out of his Jordan Peterson meetup where people have good faith, honest, meaningful dialogue with each other without calling each other poopy head. Um,
Huh.
and so it's, different people from different walks of life. It's not a Christian thing. This is basically open to different people of different religions and also of non-religious who are atheist, agnostic, whatever, heretics as well. Um, and it's also from different political persuasions as well. And people who are uh, can have that good faith in mutual respect and affection, kind of talking through iron sharpened iron conversations. And this has gone on, this estuary concept and practice has gone on throughout the world at different conferences, festivals, events all over the world. And so when we say this little corner, that's what we're talking about, is this amalgam, unorganized group of people who happen to know these four people, Peterson, uh, Peugeot, Vervaeke, and Paul Van der Klee. They don't all follow all of them. It's kind of a mix, and some people come in, like your people who watch your channel, who are just interested in what you're saying. And that's totally fine. They wouldn't technically be part of the corner. You don't have to be part of the corner. It's kind of a steep learning curve because watching all of Peterson's things and watching, all of Paul Van der is a very prolific YouTuber. It's kind of a large hurdle. and you don't need to do that. If you are interested in the estuary concept, we in the book have two pieces that we included to talk about what estuary is, the history of estuary, and anyone can do that. You don't have to have all the knowledge of this little corner. It just came out of this little corner and it's meant for everyone. So I hope I summarized it for you.
Oh no, you did a very good job.
Like,
That's a lot in a very short time, and I'm sure that that's because you've been thinking about these things
mm,
to prepare for writing the book.
yes.
Um, one of the things I love about the estuary protocol is that at the beginning of every session, everybody gets to bring up a topic that's of interest to them, and then you sort of filter it down through the discussion as to which topic the group is going to talk about. So you might end up talking about something that you've never really given very much thought, and
Yeah.
find out during the course of the discussion that this is a very deep, very interesting topic, and people can have a lot of different views on it, but all those different views sort of flesh it out and make it more complete and whole and something very beautiful.
Yeah, it's like everybody's got a different perspective on the one, like there's a diamond in the middle and everybody sees a different part of the diamond. And
Yeah,
you're like, oh, okay. And it's shaped, in this gorgeous thing, but you can only see one perspective of it.
yeah, yeah. It's funny the way I ran into Paul Vanderklay was not through his YouTube channel,
Oh,
but I had gotten interested in Jordan Peterson in a kind of a random way. So I won't go into that whole thing. But then uh, some months later, I found his biblical series and I started watching that while I was recovering from surgery. So it was a perfect
ah,
time to just dive in and watch the whole thing.
yeah.
I kind of caught it midstream when he was still making them. And so after I got caught up to like number 5 or something, I had to wait every week for the next one. And it
Yeah,
was just murder. I
yeah,
this thing,
yeah,
that 3-hour lecture coming, I could hardly wait.
yes.
And so I wanted to talk to somebody about it. So I thought, well, maybe there's a meetup group someplace. So I started looking on Meetup, and there were no Jordan Peterson meetup groups. And I thought, what's wrong with these people? Everybody should be interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, I found one meetup group that was meeting up at a Jordan Peterson event in San Francisco, and they had posted a photograph of their group, and Paul Vanderklay was in that photograph.
Hmm.
And he's so unusual looking.
Very tall.
Right.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's very tall and big white beard and everything. And I'm looking at this guy and think, what is his background? And so then I looked him up and saw that he was a pastor in Sacramento. And so and that he had a meetup that met at his church. And so I drove up there, got a hotel and stayed overnight so that I could join their meetup one night.
Cool.
And that was absolutely that was a kind of a life highlight kind of an event, really. I mean, it was so
Nice.
much fun. There were probably 25 people there. The
Wow.
conversations were just deep and engaging, and I met all kinds of amazing people, and it was so much fun. So then I got on his radar in terms of his channel and watching his videos, and decided to try to be one of the randos that got to talk to him. And
Cool.
but that's all going back to probably 2017, going over into maybe spring of 2018, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So so
Thank
how did you decide to write this book? And well, first of all, who all is involved in the writing of it?
There's three main ones of us. We are the ball carriers for the project. Um, there's two, well, actually, there's the main Bridget the Meaning Discord server, and then there's a bunch of sister Discord servers spun off from it. We were on the writing server, the Bridget the Meaning writing server, and we had started. Josh is the one who started the writers group, and he started it, and Sherry, who was one of the admins, supported us and created a channel for us so we can talk and also type stuff in different channels, text channel and a voice channel. And so we were going like 6 to 8 months, something like that. And then finally Jordan comes along and joins us, and we ended up being the main three people, and people would come and go as their schedule allowed. And and Jordan was the one who had the idea. So this was back 2 years ago, I think August of September of 2022. And he said, you know, how about if we do a collaborative book project to kind of galvanize and unite the community? And we're like, yeah, that sounds great. And so we bounded ideas around, and they are a great bunch of guys. We collaborated very easily. We're friends. The writers group is very go with the flow kind of thing. It's not very structured. We sometimes write, sometimes we have a piece and we share it with the group and we get feedback from different things. It's very laid back. Sometimes we'll just chat with each other. So it's very casual. And so we meet. We used to do every like couple weeks, and then we decided to do every week on Thursday nights. Um, so Jordan had this great idea, and we collaborated on how we should do it, what should we do, and the long story short, um, we all decided that we would do an anthology. That way we can get contributors from the Bridges of Meaning community, and we decided let's not worry about the money because that's a whole nightmare trying to figure out how to divvy up the money and all this stuff. We like let's just donate it to Pastor Paul Vanderklay, you know, it, outside of expenses, which are a few, not very much though, because it's pretty much volunteer. Um, but the all the proceeds are just going to go to Pastor Paul's ministry, to his church, and then if he ever moves on, it'll follow him wherever he goes, kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, but we had, since I had the media background, I volunteered to help with the marketing, so I'm the public relation coordinator. I like the fancy title. Um, and so it was, uh, but yeah, Jordan is the head guy. He's the one in charge of the project. Josh and I support him. So we're the three main ones. We're the ones doing the most work. We have about 15 to 20 volunteers helping us, contributors, artists, and volunteers helping with editing and proofreading and getting the word out and things like that. Marketing team kind of thing. I had one gentleman who was part of the marketing team, and unfortunately, because of health issues in his family, he had to kind of step down. But he did do some stuff, so that was really appreciative of him. But it's not always easy to get the word out in Discord because everything kind of goes up as new stuff comes in, and so the data. Um, I ended up. I'm like, we need a website, and once we figured out the name, I came up with the name Kaleidoscope because I thought, because there's so many different perspectives and all this kind of stuff. I looked online and there was a whole bunch of Kaleidoscope anthologies. I'm like, nope, this is not gonna work. So we came up with Writers of Meaning, and we, because many of the, we just thought it would be a nice, you know, tie us into the community at the same time
Mhm.
and kind of spotlight who we are. And I'm like, this got to be this online. So I did a check and there was no writersofmeaning.com. So I snagged that domain
Yeah, I mean,
right
that's
away.
very targeted, but at the same time, it's self sort of discloses itself through the name, so that
Yeah.
when people see that name, they're going to understand that there's something there that has to do with meaning, with the meaning
Yep.
crisis, probably, and
Yeah.
yeah.
We focused on community because we thought I think Jordan's the one who decided we were trying to figure out what the book would be about. And Jordan was like, "How about community?" And we're like, "That's perfect for the first book. If we do a series, that would be the perfect first book, because community is such a central part of the essence of the Bridget the Meaning um, discourse, as well as the estuary, as well as Paul Vanderklay's, his the thing he keeps, trying to promote and facilitate. That the essence of everything in Bridge of the Meaning is community, and so that's why we chose that as the topic. And
I have a personal request that
oh,
you
sure,
that you write something about. Can you make a site navigation map for the Bridges of Meaning Discord?
I
Anytime I've
wish,
tried to go on there, it's so overwhelming. It's just,
I
I mean,
wish.
I can't, I don't even know where to start. So I go in there, I spend 3 minutes and I walk away.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it. They just have a lot of channels because they have a lot of different people. They have 3,000 members in the Discord alone. Um, and so uh, there's subject heading for each group of channels. So you can actually minimize uh, the the subject heading, and it'll flatten it out to just the subject heading. That might make it a little easier to navigate. The only problem is that you have to have read each of the channels in order for them to disappear. So I know for some people, Discord is a little bit hard to navigate. I have vision and hearing issues,
Intimidating would
and
be the
so
right.
for me, it took me a little while to understand it. And I really like it because of the dark background. Um, with my vision issues, I don't like a lot of bright light shining in my eyes from a white page, and so that drives me crazy. Um, but it would be nice if if there was a different mode for people to actually connect with each other or whatever. But there's some discords that have a lot less um, channels, like our little anthology
Mhm.
Discord that we created to be able to be in communication and put information in together. It's got like 15 or 20 channels. Yeah.
Well, so as far as the project is going now, have you completed this first volume or is it
Yes,
still a work
it
in
is.
progress?
It is. It is completed. It is online for pre-order right now for the ebook on Amazon until August 31st, 2024. In case people are watching this in the future, um, and August 31st is when the book, the print book and the ebook will be available for people to buy on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and others. And we have the links on the Writers of Meaning website. Once we have the links from the system, computer, what's it thing, the technical what's it, I'll put them on for the Barnes and Noble and the other different channels. I think Ingram Spark or something like that.
So could you maybe read some of the chapter headings for us or the essay titles?
Well, the essay titles will be easier. I'm
Okay.
not a voiceover talent, but I can definitely read you the different. Um, so let me get the table of contents.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Table of
Okay.
content.
So here is some of the titles, so people can look at it, and
Well,
I'll read it out
I'll just
loud to
read them
you.
out. I'll read them out loud for the people who can't see this.
Is it in focus for you?
Yeah, yeah, it is. Geeks,
Okay.
rabbit, and meaning. Geeks, rabbits, and meaning. I like that. Estuary, a true antidote to the cancel culture. Alchemical transmutation in community. Oh,
Alchemy.
that's going to be a deep dive.
Yeah.
And then 2018 to 2019, a casual history, my journey with this little corner. Okay, so that's like a personal testimony.
That's the gentleman who's a Hutterite.
Oh,
So,
that's okay. Yeah,
yeah.
that's Julian.
Yep, that's Julian. That's correct.
So, challenges for the disabled to join communities.
Hmm.
And then, what is Estuary all about? And is it coming to a church near you?
That is actually, I can have a story behind that, but that's from the Banner's estuary article. They gave us permission to reprint it.
Uh-huh. Emergency preparedness, the self reliant community.
Mhm.
That's good. Um, Especially since we're living in a time period when like 50% of the um, fiction and movies that are coming out are apocalyptic,
Yeah,
right? So,
yep.
something for you and yours, Merlin, Lost at Sea, and Closing.
Hmm.
So it sounds like an amazing anthology.
So I wrote three because I we had a word cap of 8,000 words, and I was like, I can't do this. So I wrote three shorter pieces. I'm like, I'll just
8,000
write
words.
three.
That's like 40
And
40 pages, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So I wrote the Geeks, Rabbits, and Meaning, the challenges for the disabled to join community, and the emergency preparedness one. Um, I have a lot of eclectic interest, and I'm also disabled with vision and hearing. My family has chronic health conditions and disabilities, so it was something I was familiar with, and I'm like, this is something many people don't even think about. It's like you were able to drive down to Paul Vanderklay's thing.
Mm-hmm.
Many disabled people, just getting out of the house to go to the doctor is a huge endeavor.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but Julian's piece, um, his journey in this little corner, it's really great. It talks about, his journey of like becoming more aware, less fundamentalist, more open to different ideas. Even though he might still believe his ideas, he started to have more of a holistic perspective than a straw man's approach to other people's perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really great. Um, Alchemy, the transmutation of in community, that's Josh. He did that one. Chad and his wife Anne had a couple pieces that were writing prompts that they did back when they were first dating, and that is his little story snippet and her little story snippet talking about relationships. So it was kind of cool that he was able to be involved with it. Um, so uh, Merlin is a screenplay written by David Walker. It's very symbolic in the vein of Jonathan Pajot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's really I interviewed him and for the Writers of Meaning channel, and we had a wonderful conversation. And because my dad was a screenwriter as well, so it was kind of fun since I was in media and he was a screenwriter, to talk about stuff. And he was trying to re-enchant the fairy tales and make them not as, you know, vanilla as Disney movies kind
Mm-hmm.
of thing. Lost to Sea is Jordan's piece, and it is really cool. It's written as as excerpts from letters from dealing with an alien invasion, the
Cool.
aftermath of the alien invasion. It's really cool. I really enjoy it. Um, and who am I forgetting here? Um, Josh is is like a very interesting, different perspective on alchemy. He's talking more of the aesthetics of it than the actual turning gold into lead,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fascinating. Both Jordan and Josh are better writers than I am. they're, they're really, really good. Um, so we kept it short and sweet. Um, Part of it was, even though I was able to get quite a few volunteers and contributors, we had hoped for more. But we had we would have had more people, but some of them kept wanting to give us things that were not in theme with the book. And so we're like, sorry, we can't add it. That's not community, you know. But if we do a future thing, maybe they can be participate in it or something.
Mm-hmm.
But and Jordan really wanted to keep it bit to the meaning centered. I wanted to kind of expand it out to include the awakening from the meaning crisis discord and the symbolic world discord. But you know, they they may have not understood what we were trying to do, or and not feel invested in it like we were. Um, but there's a lot of crossover of people from Bridge of the Meaning go are members of those discords as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're all interested in the same thing, kind of thing. Um,
Well, when you do the next iteration of this, you have another volume,
yeah,
might just be able to put out a call for contributors
yeah,
on those other sites. And
yeah.
because kind of misunderstood what you guys were doing, I thought you were writing essays about what this corner is and what it's all about and how we develop community and everything. But what you're actually doing is putting together some creative pieces that illustrate what community means in these
Yes.
different genres.
So let me explain John Van Donk and the Banners as well. So it was a collection of like what community means. It was written for, about, and by community, the whole book. John Van Donk was suggested to me by Paul Vanderklay as a possible contributor. At first, he didn't have anything, but he recommended that I touch base with the Banner to see if I can get the reprint rights, and they were very kind and said yes, that would be fine with us, and so we did all the things with them, and we even got permission from Justin, who took the photo from Chino conference, to have that in the book as well as when he took it for the article. Um, so we have two pieces that are kind of debuting the concept of estuary to a mainstream arena. And so they're kind of the first uh, books, I mean, the first pieces that we want people to understand, kind of spotlighting estuary, explaining the history of estuary, what estuary is, and all that. So um, John Van Donk, as I followed up with him and let him know that we were, the Banner said yes. He's like, I do have this piece called Estuary, the Antidote to Cancel Culture. I'm like, oh, sure, we'll read it. And so we read it. It was fantastic. It's very complimentary of the Banner. The Banner is very good for people who are outside of the corner, um, who it gives a good overview of the history and the details about estuary protocol. It is a great introduction to estuary. Um, John Van Donk's piece about estuary was much more in depth behind the scenes of how things came about, and it's just another take on it. Um, and so we thought we wanted to include them to help promote uh, estuary. It's kind of it's our first book that we did together, so it doesn't have like a narrative, exactly what you were saying. We just did the best we could with what we could volunteer wise and putting the book together. We're hoping that people would find it interesting, enlightening, and encouraging.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to read some of those creative pieces too. I mean, that sounds like a really interesting way because we know that story is really the way that people are moved.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, Chad's and David's and uh, Jordan's pieces are all fiction, um, and the rest of them are nonfiction. So it's kind of a combination of both. Usually an anthology would be one or with, and so we have both because that's what people were available to put in.
So was it complicated to figure out how to get it published?
We
Is
were
it
very
a
fortunate because
complicated process?
Jordan, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is it a complicated process?
Somewhat. The tools to enable people to get self-published are much easier now than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, there are there's there's Kindle Direct Publishing, and then there's also, and I'm totally forgetting the name of what Jordan is using. Um, but there's different types of services, online services, and websites and software that enable you to compile and format a book and get it into print. So first, a book is a manuscript. It's got to go through a lot of editing and formatting and packaging and all that kind of stuff, and graphic design for the covers, for the front and back cover and the spine. Um, and then it goes into it turns into a book, what we all call a book. Um, it's kind of technical. Thankfully, I did not have to do any of it because I'm like, ah. Jordan actually has self-published some of his own stories before, so he was familiar with the process. Emily, who you may or may not know, she's part of the Estuary members. I did not know this until after I interviewed her,
Now, is that
but
food
she
food
is friends with
family?
John Van Donk.
Is that Food Truck Emily or a different Emily?
Different Emily.
Oh, okay.
Her family was half French, and so her name is IE at the end instead of Y.
Hmm.
And I'm blanking on her last name, but her interview is on the Writer the Meaning channel. Um, and she's the graphic artist, and she also formats books for a living. So she was kindly volunteered to help us with the book graphic design and the illustrations before each of the chapter headings. We have a couple other illustrators, uh, artists who designed uh, who did the drawings for Merlin and something else, and I'm blanking, and I apologize. Um, but their names are in the thank yous and the closing. For thank you for all this
Hmm.
that you've done, kind of thing. Um, am I answering your question? I apologize.
Yes, no, you are absolutely. It's just
Okay.
what I mean, I'm just reflecting on how wonderful it is that you're not only talking about community, but you're expressing what community can accomplish working together, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what the essence of the book is. We try to keep it very cost effective, even though we would love to, sell a lot of books to raise money for Paul Van Clay. We figured what's most important to him and us is to get the word out that people can have meaningful conversations, deeper bonds with each other, and this is what you can create together. And if we can do this, what can you do? Feel free to, you know, gather together and create something nice and beautiful together, kind of thing,
Mhm.
and have conversations. And,
Uh,
you know, hopefully you don't have to be part of our corner in order to have the same kind of nice, wonderful, edifying conversations that we have.
so what do you learn personally from the process of writing?
Oh, I actually never thought of myself as a writer. My dad was an actor, writer, director, so I always think of him as the real writer. Um, Back in 2020, my mom recommended that I just write. At the time, I was just writing some fan fiction because I it was fun for me, based on an anime. Um, but she said you should write, and I'm terrible with grammar and spelling is not so good. But um, I had years of working with my dad, and so I'm not at his level. But one of the things that writing does is help me figure out what I actually think. I'm a verbal processor, so with my videos on Nara Fellowship, I tend to script everything because I can just kind of ramble as I kind of do here. um, but writing helps me to clarify my thoughts, process what I'm thinking, figure out what I want to do. Um, Sometimes when I get really upset, I'll write a piece for it because it becomes something worth of reading, and it it's a processing thing for me. I tend to like nonfiction more than fiction, even though I used to devour books when I was a kid. Um, I what I really want to do is connect with other people, have back and forth dialogue, and I started sometimes I have to explain a lot of stuff first in order to facilitate that kind of dialogue, um, and or explain things that most people don't understand because I have a very eclectic background. Um, from my parents are very eclectic, and I'm eclectic. I had a very strange childhood. Not bad. We had health issues and disabilities and stuff, but I worked in media production as a kid. It's like not a lot of kids can say that, and it um, so I I from my dad, from learning from my dad, and also working with all the different people as a child with different grown-ups, I learned how to talk to different people. And so that comes across in my writing as I'm always thinking like, how do I convey this to make this clearer for people?
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes I just, I like to daydream and just play finger paint with my daydreams of like what if
Mhm.
scenarios and stuff. And
I like that image. Finger paint
yeah,
with my daydreams. That's really nice.
yeah. So sometimes I have my fan fictions, like one of them sort of published, I never finished it, and another one's in my head and on my computer a little bit. And I just like, you know, and I started journaling, you know, several years ago, and I never been a journaler, and it's really helped me to kind of focus, to verbal dump without burdening people with my my words, two hours worth of stuff I can just put down in like 8 pages, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done. I processed that.
Huh?
So
Yeah.
it's figuring out what I think is it's verbally processing stuff, and it's connecting with people. So sorry, I had to go through all that just to explain those three things
Well,
because I'm a
see,
very
I'm
processor.
I'm the same kind of thinker you are.
Ah,
I have to verbally process. I can't,
yeah,
and that's what makes writing very hard for me. When
yeah,
I first ran into Jordan Peterson, I did a lot of writing. I wrote and wrote. I mean, I have hundreds of pages of essays written on my that I just stacked up in files on my computer.
cool.
But and for a while I had a website and I was trying to I got tired of the whole process of updating the website. And so I finally let the website go. And
Okay.
then I lost a lot of that writing because I hadn't saved the.
Oh no.
I still do have quite a bit of it. But the point is, I'm exactly like you. I have to, sometimes takes me a long time to think something through and get it said. The thing that helped me was I taught English as a second language for a number of years.
Oh, that's
And then
helpful.
you have to learn how to communicate with people that have uh, not as sophisticated a grasp of the foreign language as they do of their own language, and
Right.
you have to find a way through to kind of communicate things in a simpler way.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, it made me think of this wonderful passage from one of Chesterton's books. I can't remember if it's Heretics or Orthodoxy, but at the beginning of the book he talks about um, I think it's the same place where he's talking about this experience of going farther away from home than he'd ever been before, and then looking back and seeing that there was actually this big horse on the hillside that had been kind of carved into the hillside and packed with calcium or something. So it was like a big drawing on this hillside. As long
Huh.
as he lived there, he had never seen it. He didn't know anything about it. But when he got far enough away from home to look back on his hill, there it was. Or
Oh,
maybe he's
interesting.
describing somebody else's experience. But anyway, the point is, when you get enough distance, you get a perspective, right?
Right.
Well, in that same passage, he talks about all the books that he's never written. His best books are the ones he's never written.
Oh, yeah.
And when he said that, I thought, oh, that's so true. My best paintings are the ones I never paint.
Yes. I have my daydreams. The best stories are in my head, and
Right.
I can't bungle them up with my writing.
But then I thought, well, what fun it would be to just write an essay about the painting that I never painted.
Oh,
This painting that I never painted, but if I had painted it, this is what it would be, right?
yeah.
So you can kind of give yourself some distance that way. You can say, oh, here's this story that I never wrote, but if I was going to write it, this is what it would look like, right?
Yeah.
So I can do the same thing with the junk drawer in my kitchen. I can look at it and I can think, well, here's the way I would organize it if I organized it. I'm not going to organize it, but I'm perfectly satisfied with thinking about what it would look like if I had organized it.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Now, Jordan Peterson would get very upset with me for that, I'm sure. Clean your room.
Clean your room, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still working on that all these years. I still have, like, I'm sort of, it's an organized mess. So I have piles and stacks of papers and stuff in my room. Fortunately, you can't see them.
Yeah, you would be surprised at what's sitting just to my left here.
Yeah, I bet. Over here,
Well,
on
in fact,
both
I'll
of these
show you.
sides, I got
I'll
piles of
show you.
stuff.
I think I can show you.
Aw, yeah. I bet I can't really do that, or else, kind of mess the computer up. But
Yeah.
yeah. but I've got, you know, it's at least, 4 inches high on one of them, and oh, maybe an inch and a half or 2 inches on another one.
Well, I
And I
have
got,
stacks like that on every surface in my office and
uh,
my bedroom because, well, partly because I'm trying to prepare my talk for the
yeah,
Northwest Estuary Northwest 2024,
that's cool.
Encountering Face to Face. It has a long title,
Oh,
in Olympia, Washington, on
uh,
September 12th through the 15th. And so
sweet.
I've been thinking, and trying to write this thing out because I only get 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I've
20 is a little easier.
been doing the channel for 5 years. I have 351 episodes, and I'm supposed to explain some idea out of that.
Wow.
So, but this is going to sound like I'm peeved, but I'm not really. It's just a funny thing that happened today.
Okay.
I looked at a comment that was on one of my most recent episodes. I had pinned a comment on that episode because I thought it was a terrific episode, but it wasn't getting any comments. So I
Oh.
pinned a comment that said, "I'm curious why people aren't commenting on this episode." And the comment that came back was, and I won't say who said it, but he said, "Well, you're really not part of this little corner. You're just sort of, second tier."
I'm like, what? No.
At first, I was like, "Oh, I'm really not part of the corner. I used to
Yeah.
be part of the corner, but now I'm just second tier because there's so many other things to
Yeah.
watch on the corner." And I recognize that that's what's happened as more and
Mm,
more channels have stacked up.
mm,
There's, I mean, at this point, there's still pretty much the same number of viewers, and so
mhm.
everybody gets fewer views.
Yeah.
Or the newer people kind of move up, like
Yeah.
on the Bridges of Meaning thing. The newer stuff moves up into
Yep.
place, and then
Yeah.
the older channels just kind of languish like that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only reason it makes me sad is when I have a terrific guest like Rafe Kelly, who,
I saw that episode. That was fantastic. It was
right, but
gorgeous. I'm like,
so few views. And that's just so sad because there should be so many people hearing him because he has
yes.
so much to contribute. So then I feel like, well, is there something I'm not doing to adequately market? I'm not marketing the episodes, obviously, but I feel guilty about that. These people come and they give me their time and they give me these amazing conversations, and then so few people really get to get to hear it, get to
Yeah.
participate in it.
So, are you on Facebook at all?
No, in fact, I just deleted my Facebook.
Okay. There's a couple, two or three conservative creative Facebook groups, and it's kind of heartening because I grew up in media production. It was very heavily liberal, and um, nothing wrong with being liberal or anything. It's just, sometimes you just need other people to connect with who kind of get where you're coming from. Because I've always been outside of the usual group of people who I agree with, kind of
Mhm.
thing. Um, but a lot of good people like yourself and other people are creating really interesting things, everything from artwork to podcasts to YouTube channels and things like that. So I thought maybe there might be a different outside of this little corner kind of thing. Um,
Yeah,
but
I should probably use Instagram more to promote episodes, but I haven't used Instagram to a place where I have a following. Now,
see,
at one point, I probably had 1,000 friends on Facebook because I used to do art and then I had all the art friends and everything. But
mm,
when I first started the channel, I would always post every episode on Facebook.
ah,
Nobody ever watched it or clicked on it or commented on it.
yeah,
For a couple of years of that, I just thought, well, I guess folks
yeah,
aren't interested in this. It's a certain niche, you have to find your
yeah,
niche. And
yeah. It's
mhm,
hard. I'm just getting started, so I'm one of the newbies, and I'm not going to be chasing numbers. Um, I I'm a learner, so I just wanted to connect with other people who are learners who are actually thinkers.
mhm.
I'm not a thought leader, I'm not an expert. That's what they tell you you're supposed to be, and I'm like, it's not happening because I am not as studious student as many others. I just like process of learning new things that are
Mhm.
interesting, and anything that catches my attention that makes sense to me, I'll just keep in my head or in my notes and stuff. Um, and I thought, uh, you know, I promoted so marketing is kind of on social media is a little tough than just posting all your YouTube channels or your blog post on everything. They want more social interaction.
Mhm.
Um, and then you post like one or two or three of the pieces that invite feedback and connection and engagement. Um, a lot of from what I'm reading is a lot of the channels, the not channels, platforms like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, they're kind of discouraging and muffling the posts and things that have outbound links. They're
Yeah,
trying to keep people on their platform as much as possible, which I think that's
yeah.
kind of selfish and
Um,
self-serving. And I'm like, I can understand where you're coming from, you know, but that's not what people are using it for. You need
well,
to
and
kind of give
probably I need to learn how to upload onto X because I do pay for a membership on X, but all
on,
those things take
oh,
time to
for
learn.
Twitter.
I mean, yeah, on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah,
You,
so,
like you can upload your videos onto Twitter, so
oh,
that
really?
yeah, you don't have to go through YouTube at all. You can just take your, as far as I know, you can just take your MP3 or your MP4 and upload it onto Twitter.
Sorry
And
about that.
that's okay.
My phone was ringing and I didn't recognize the number.
Yeah, so I've thought about that, but all of those things take time and I just
Yeah.
don't have the time. I mean, I'm barely keeping my head above water just
Mm,
with the guests that I have and trying to keep up
yeah.
with all that because periodically somebody will email me and they'll say, "Hey, I wrote this book and I'd love to talk to you." Well, then I got to read their book and then I got to try to
I
figure out
know.
what they're talking
It's
about.
like, can you just give me summaries so I can sound like an intelligent host for you?
Yeah.
You know, um,
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like you. I'm not after the numbers at all. I'm seriously, I have a question that I'm working on that I'm trying to understand. And so
yeah.
that's driven all of most of my activities on the channel. Occasionally I'll talk with people from the corner because I want to stay connected to the corner,
Hmm.
but maybe
Yeah.
are only peripherally connected to my main topic that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So the only time I ever worry about the numbers at all is that I want to give this opportunity to the people that I speak to get some visibility. I
Right.
don't care if I get visibility. I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
But I would like them to have some visibility, especially when they're saying amazing things.
So one of the things that may or may not help you, and it doesn't sound like you have the time to do it, but the most important thing you can do is have an email newsletter and have people sign up for it. Um, Usually, it's better to have your own website to do this with. And what you do is you sign up for like MailChimp or one of the others, and they they handle a lot of the things to make sure that you're not received as spam. There's a whole bunch. There's one book called Newsletter Ninja by Tammy something, Tammi. It's a yellow book with a ninja on it. It's kind of cute and fun. Talks about the ins and outs, and I'm not going to do it all because they're talking about you got to send a newsletter every week, and I'm like, I can barely do a blog post every 6 to 8 months. What are you talking about? And I'm like, so um, but you know, they in I've read a lot of books about writers' platform, which is basically the inside the publishing industry, everything is shifted and changed. So publishers will consider publishing your book if you have a platform. And that platform can be a number of different combinations. But one of the things that seem to be the most common is some social media following, but they give more weight to engagement than numbers.
Mhm.
So if you are, um, and I think you do this pretty well, is you comment back and forth with people on your YouTube, and YouTube actually sees that that's part of their algorithm, according to some of the stuff that I've read. Um, but one of the key things that they recommend, and not all writers do this, is to have an email newsletter. I've got 2 or 3 people on my newsletter, and I haven't sent anything out. And I'm like, I can't get people to sign up. I don't know, I'm supposed to have a cookie as the new, newsletter ninja lady talks about, which is basically a freebie of some sort as a download. I don't have that. So I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to give people that they would want. I have tons of notes of all the stuff I've learned over the years, but I don't think they'd be interested in that. Like, and I'm like, I just kind of plod along. So it's like, you know, um, yeah, it's kind of hard because most of the advice people give each other is more stuff to do.
Well, and the people who are already doing that, I have signed up for a lot of newsletters. So when I open up my email now, I have 6 or 7 newsletters from different people every day. And, even if I just glance at it, it takes a lot of time.
Hmm.
So then I get tempted to just ditch all of it, rather than, although it's all very interesting. I love
Yes,
looking at it, but
I
I'm not
have.
sure I
Yeah.
want to add to that stack in other people's mailboxes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what kind of goes on with me is I've got like 20 different newsletters I've subscribed to, and
Mhm,
they kind of bury all the interaction stuff. And so I'm like, I started, okay, I can't handle everything in my main email. I'll
mhm,
just move these newsletters to a different email address so that when I get emails from you or somebody else that I need to interact with, they're not buried under newsletters.
mhm.
Because it's like I it kind of caused me a problem with I tend to be a collector, a hoarder, and a collector of many different things, including information. Like
I
I
totally get that. Yeah,
yeah,
I have the
it's
same
like
problem.
so yeah, but you know, one of the things that I've kind of I think there's we want to have the best platform to service our guests that they would be able to um be spotlighted and be discovered by other people.
Hmm.
Um, and but sometimes a lot of actors, big A and B name actors, they will take less money and actually uh, do independent films that allow them to do something different uh, from their perceived stereotype of what the kind of roles they play.
Hmm.
Allow them to stretch themselves, allow them to do something they've not done before. And that's what you and I can offer guests is an interesting, meaningful conversation.
Hmm.
Not just, make sure you look good because there's like 5 million people watching kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like we're kind of like the podcast version of the independent films, um, where they can share that. It's like you're talking about science, which is like fascinating. I don't have a mind for it, but I find what you find interesting. For me, I want to learn more about learning, but not just the hows and whats, but the whys. And I have a whole bunch of interests, and I am supposed to niche myself. So I'm like, how am I going to niche myself? I have like all these things I'm interested in. So I'm like, I'll
Hmm.
be the learning girl. That'll be it. And I can do all the things I want to do. I'm cheating. Um, but yeah, so I'm babbling, sorry.
Uh, I was just thinking about Curious George. You could be Curious Valerie.
Oh yes, Curious Valerie. Yeah, my dad's name was George, so that's kind of
Oh,
funny. Yeah, yeah.
my husband's name is George. So
I
there you go.
I I remember the book where the little monkey,
Yeah.
cute little
Yeah.
monkey with the man in the yellow hat. Yeah.
Well, so you want to show us the book one more time and then
Oh sure,
tell us what the website is and everything so people know how to get in touch. Okay.
sure. This
Right.
is it's kind of cut off, so I'm trying to show you the cover that Emily kindly designed for us. It's
Uh-huh.
called writersandmeaning.com. If you want, I can email you or send you the links to the channels and the website so you can put it in the video description if you'd like.
Well, sure. Send me any links that you have that you want to put in the video description. And
Okay.
I will actually, I'll try to publish that maybe tomorrow
Okay.
right
That would be
away so that
appreciated.
then you can take it and you can use it and post any place you want to post it that you want.
Oh, I've got
Um,
several places we can post it.
yeah.
So,
So
um,
I can either give you the YouTube link or I can give you an MP4 and then you can
oh,
upload it yourself. So I don't know which would be preferable to you.
um, I'd like to drive traffic to you. So why don't we just make it on your channel?
Okay.
Um, if you want to give me the video files just so I can have it, that would be really nice, but I won't post it on the right of the meeting. I'll just leave it for your channel and point people to you and hopefully I'm a member of many different Discords and YouTube um, uh, not YouTube Facebook groups and stuff. So maybe I can point some people to you to kind of make people aware that you're of your great show. You know, I really enjoy coming to you and seeing you in my feeds, and sometimes it's like it's a little bit not the right time for me to watch, or it's
Mhm.
not something I'm really interested in. But it's like you know, Ray Kelly and Sevilla King and stuff like that. I'm like, this is really cool. And sometimes you have other people on talking about you know writing or arts or you know something of some interest and I'm like I'm gonna watch that. I have that in my watch list. Then I try to watch, but it's so voluminous in the dealing with life and everything. So, but
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'd be glad to share it.
we all
And
have our watch lists, right? I mean,
yeah,
5, 6, 7, 800 videos that we've got on our watch list. How are we ever going to get through it?
I
But
would love.
it's better to have stuff to do than to not have. I'd much rather watch YouTube videos than anything on Netflix or
Yeah,
right.
me too. Me
So much
too.
stuff is so much better. There's just no
Yeah.
comparison.
I really enjoy your show and I really enjoy you. You're kind of my inspiration and role model because you're
Oh,
doing what I want to do.
dear, please
And I
don't make
meant
me a
that in
role
a
model to anybody, please.
well, it's like you're doing you're doing a podcast YouTube channel of learning what you want to learn about. And that's exactly what I want to do.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, and so, you know, I know Paul talks about, you know, the blessings of being small, you know, and that enables you not to be slaves to um, the masses,
Mhm.
which, you know, it's like I worked in media, so I kind of have that desire for fame. God help me. But I try to use you and Paul Vanderklay to keep me grounded and centered and not go chasing the brass ring and um, you know pursue you know like Peterson talks about pursue meaning that will lead you the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, like Paul always says, don't get on the status rocket because status binds and blinds.
that's true.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, this has been great, Valerie. I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk, and I
yeah.
will, I'll wait for your email with the links and so I can
Okay.
upload this and,
I'd love to have you on my show to talk about learning. Could you like? Would that be okay?
oh, I'd love to,
Okay.
but
And I
I'm
know your schedule is pretty booked right now, but it
right.
doesn't have to be now. It could be
And
in the
we're
future.
traveling a lot between
Oh,
now
okay.
and the end of October. So I would have to be in November.
Oh, yeah, November, December, something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and be able to talk with the Karen
Oh,
and Wong. It's so cool.
Karen, who's
Um,
second tier.
yeah, yeah. A little bit of star. Um, yeah, tinsel and glitter and yeah, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. But
Oh,
thank
the
you
only
very,
bling
very much.
about
I
me is my
appreciate it.
necklace. I wear my
Oh,
necklace all the time.
it's a gorgeous one. Too. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
it's
very much.
$16 at Ross. So
Ah,
that was my big find. So have a
ah.
great day, Valerie. We'll
You
talk
too.
later. Okay.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye-bye.